And I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened by the way Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League. Now by those sorry-ass Browns and sorry-ass Kevin Stefanski.
I understand in a situation like that, when it comes to the 3s and 4s that you're playing with that aren't going to be on the squad and not going to make the team, give your quarterback a chance. Okay, you know what? You know they can't hold up that long? Let's play quick game. Let's play quick game just to get Shedeur in the goddamn rhythm. But no, you come out, calling regular offensive plays.
When they're at practice, Shedeur Sanders is not their priority. When he is at practice, he was staying hours beforehand, leaving hours later.
Shedeur Sanders wasn't just tossed into the game last night, he was dropped into a no-win setup. Nothing about it felt accidental. From his first snap, it looked like one player against the entire machine. The Cleveland Browns, led by head coach Kevin Stefanski, seemed intent on cooling the hype and slowing his momentum. Instead, the plan backfired. The performance and the circumstances around it have sparked a wave of scrutiny, with analysts and reporters now calling out Stefanski and the Browns front office for engineering a preseason situation that stacked the deck against Shedeur.
I'm going to answer this question by saying Shedeur Sanders, and I'm going to tell you why. I think he's being set up to...
Stephen A. Smith said from the outset that the entire preseason would be engineered to undermine Shedeur Sanders. He argued that even starting the first preseason game was part of a plan to make him stumble, fueling the idea that he's just a 5th-round pick, and validating the skeptics. Whether that blueprint existed before the games kicked off or not, it didn't stop there. Now, attention has turned to Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns for placing Shedeur in an unfamiliar system and circumstances that set him up to falter. Garrett Bush echoed that criticism, noting that regardless of how hard Shedeur worked before and after practices, he was never treated as a true priority in their plans.
When they're at practice, Shedeur Sanders is not their priority. When he is at practice, he was staying hours beforehand, leaving hours later.
Kevin Stefanski doubled down, saying his group was executing and placing the responsibility squarely on Shedeur Sanders for the miscues. When pressed on whether having Shedeur work all week with 3rd and 4th team units contributed to the mistakes, Stefanski wouldn't budge. Rather than acknowledge that first team reps might have better prepared a rookie, he waved off the idea and reiterated that his job is to develop young players. But what kind of development plan withholds meaningful snaps with starters, then drops a promising prospect into live action and expects him to run concepts he's never practiced with them?
All of our players, Mary Kay, there's things that we can do better, and there's some good moments out there, but that's what our job as coaches, to develop.
Skip Bayless weighed in as well, blasting the Cleveland Browns for their handling of Shedeur Sanders and calling it just about the worst approach imaginable. He said the issues fit a troubling pattern under Kevin Stefanski, with Sanders repeatedly mishandled instead of developed. In Bayless's view, this wasn't a one-off mistake. Sanders hasn't been given real opportunities or meaningful support. That treatment has only increased the pressure and made it even harder for him to succeed.
And I'm outraged, I'm sickened, and I'm saddened by the way Shedeur continues to be treated in the National Football League.
Chad Johnson added that by surrounding Shedeur Sanders with offensive players unlikely to make the roster, Kevin Stefanski effectively stacked the deck against him. He argued that even a quarterback of Tom Brady's caliber would have struggled in that setup. Analysts have echoed the point, putting the blame on the coaching staff for failing to give Shedeur a fair platform to succeed. Ochocinco also warned that critics would soon brand Shedeur a failure and dismiss him as a 5th-string option, while ignoring the core problem, who engineered the situation in the first place. Despite the noise, he framed the backlash as part of a broader effort to drag Shedeur down, noting that some people seem more intent on tearing him apart than acknowledging the circumstances that shaped his performance.
You just beat the guy, and that's okay. You get paid, he gets paid. Sometimes Ocho just gonna win because Ocho was just the better player. Sometimes the defensive back is gonna win. He wins some, you win more than you lose.
Despite the noise, Shedeur Sanders never criticized head coach Kevin Stefanski or anyone else. He put the outcome on himself and focused on what he could control. He acknowledged there was plenty to clean up and committed to doing the work. He framed it as a learning opportunity, refusing to let one preseason outing define him. Like a veteran, he owned the mistakes, recognizing he needed better eye discipline on those designed runs and smarter decisions to keep the offense on schedule. He even took responsibility for every sack, stating they were on him. The response was measured and mature, reflecting his grasp of the position and his readiness to improve.
No, I gotta watch the film, honestly. I can't say what it was. It's definitely different places where I could got my eyes in better spots and got to the progressions quicker and regards to anything, so all those sacks, they definitely on me.
How long can Shedeur Sanders keep absorbing the blame on his own? How long before the decision makers who've steered this process either stand up for him or at least grant him a fair look? More and more voices around the league see this as deliberate. Shedeur cleared the first gauntlet, but he's still tangled in the same net. That's the core problem. Not one preseason outing, but an apparatus that keeps tilting the field. The treatment of Shedeur Sanders forces hard questions about fairness, opportunity, and bias in the NFL. Despite the obstacles placed in front of him, he's responded with poise, owning his performance, identifying areas to improve, and committing to growth. But the larger issue isn't his willingness to learn, it's the structure around him that keeps narrowing his margin for success. His experience with the Browns, being dropped into situations where failure felt pre-written, points to deeper systemic habits. Young players, especially those who don't fit a preferred narrative, get boxed in, judged early, and developed late. This isn't only one quarterback's story. It mirrors what countless prospects face when perception, politics, or preconceived roles outweigh on-field evaluation. As analysts and commentators continue to spotlight what's happening, it's clear the conversation about Shedeur Sanders has moved beyond a single depth chart debate. It's about dismantling baked-in biases and delivering a truly even playing field. Shedeur's resilience is real and admirable. The unanswered question is whether the system will evolve fast enough to let players like him do more than survive so they can finally thrive. What do you think?
He said he thought Dillon Gabriel was a little bit better. Y'all, chill out. You're making this combative when there's no need to be combative.
The fact that you're only here for Shedeur, okay.
Both the Browns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In their mind of logic, we're going to, and I'm pretty sure this same group of people complain about things that don't go their way in other realms of life.
As the season draws near, the conversation around Shedeur Sanders is getting more intense, with fans standing firmly behind their quarterback and believing in his potential. On the flip side, some critics haven't held back, calling those supporters naive or even foolish for backing Shedeur before he's had a real shot in the NFL. But sometimes, it's the most passionate voices that stick to what they believe, and Garrett Bush is definitely one of them. Recently, Emmett Golden criticized Shedeur's fans, accusing them of overhyping him and being too defensive. But Garrett Bush wasn't about to let that slide. He clapped back, pointing out the double standard in Emmett's comments. Garrett reminded everyone that Emmett was already pushing for Dillon to be the starter, even though Dillon clearly isn't ready for that spot yet. Garrett's point came through loud and clear. There's no reason to boost other quarterbacks just to downplay what
It's sad. If it doesn't fit your narrative, you are the enemy. No room for civil discourse.
Shedeur brings to the table. Garrett Bush didn't stop there. He made it clear that the support for Shedeur Sanders isn't just about what he can do on the field. There's a bigger picture. Garrett pointed out that Shedeur has already shown what he's made of off the field, especially with how he carries himself in interviews and press conferences. His leadership, confidence, and presence behind the mic have already made a strong impression. Even though Shedeur hasn't played an official NFL game yet, Garrett Bush didn't hold back when responding to the people still doubting him. He took on every critic, questioning how anyone could look at Shedeur and not see the talent. How are they rating him like this when he's clearly that good? Garrett asked. He called out how unfair and inaccurate some of the evaluations were, saying people were seriously underestimating Shedeur's abilities, and fans weren't just going to stay quiet about it. Garrett made one thing crystal clear. Judging Shedeur so harshly before he's even had the chance to prove himself in the league doesn't make sense. There's a lot of talent there that's just waiting to be seen. He kept driving the point home. Shedeur Sanders isn't just a potential future star. He's ready right now. Garrett said Shedeur has what it takes to be the face of the Browns today. From how seriously he prepares, to his calm under pressure, to how he shows up when it matters most. Everything about Shedeur screams leadership, and that's exactly the kind of player Cleveland needs.
Of course, I already think that he's better than other quarterbacks. because that move to the 5th round, that's cool. They might have to go along with it, but to me, I think if you ask who got the best tools, I'm going with Shedeur Sanders.
Garrett Bush didn't mince words. He made it crystal clear. If anyone comes after Shedeur Sanders' fans without a good reason, they're going to get the same kind of pushback they're seeing now. No filters, no holding back. Garrett wasn't backing off, and he made sure everyone knew just how real the loyalty and dedication of Shedeur's supporters are. He understood that this fan base isn't just rallying behind Shedeur because of his talent on the field. They believe in his character, his grind, and the idea that he can lead Cleveland into a better future. That support runs deep. Not long ago, Colin Cowherd also decided to take a jab at Shedeur Sanders and his fans, and what he said definitely raised eyebrows. Colin went beyond just sharing an opinion. He challenged Shedeur's supporters, telling them to defend him the same way they had for guys like Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson on Reddit. But this wasn't some offhand take. Colin took it further, targeting everything Shedeur had worked hard to build. His words didn't feel like simple criticism. They came off as straight-up disrespect toward both the player and the people backing him. Colin's remarks weren't just about Shedeur's game. They were a direct hit on the commitment and belief his fan base continues to show.
100 miles an hour. Yep. All you fanboys, go ahead. Manziel, Baker, Deshaun Watson, defended it to the hilt on your Reddit account. Sorry.
After Colin Cowherd made his bold remarks, it didn't take long for the backlash to roll in. Fans weren't about to let that kind of disrespect slide, especially after he came so hard at Shedeur Sanders and the people who support him. The response on social media was fast and intense, with fans speaking out loudly about how upset and frustrated they were. Colin had to face serious heat for what he said, and it quickly became clear that his shots at Shedeur weren't something fans were going to just brush off or forget. Sharing an opinion about a player's talent or potential is one thing. That's part of what makes sports fun to talk about. Everyone's entitled to their own take, and discussions around player projections are nothing new. But going as far as mocking an entire fan base and calling them dumb? That crosses a line. Critiquing Shedeur's performance is fair game, but insulting the people who believe in him? That's a whole different story. Fans put in time, energy, and emotion into rooting for their favorite players, especially someone like Shedeur, who's already shown so much potential. Calling that kind of loyalty dumb isn't just rude, it completely misses what sports fandom is all about. These fans aren't blindly following someone. They see the work Shedeur puts in, they see the future he could have, and they stand behind him because they truly believe in what he can become. Mocking that belief takes away from the heart of being a fan. People care deeply about Shedeur Sanders, not just for what he can do on the field, but for what he represents. For a lot of fans, this isn't just about football. It's about hope. It's about seeing someone lead their team with strength and determination. The idea of Shedeur stepping up as Cleveland's starting QB isn't just some random dream. It's something fans are emotionally tied to. They want to see him succeed, grow, and become the player they know he's capable of being. For many, the connection goes beyond football. It's personal. It's about loyalty, belief, and holding on to the idea that better days are ahead with Shedeur leading the way.
Let me go play once again with your legal ground. Shedeur Sanders.
Was out there, I talked to Denzel Ward.
Yep.
I talked to some. But I can't say the name. But anyway, I done talked to some people. He looked different. There's a difference when that young bull is out there spinning that ball. You hear me? Mm-hmm. Difference. I'm talking about football. I ain't talking about no media and all that hoopla and all them. On Twitter they putting up the numbers. Some he was 10 for 12 for 2 touchdowns. I'm talking about when he's at the helm, he looks different. Whether he's going with the first team, second team, or third team, it don't matter.
From being buried on the depth chart as a fourth stringer to suddenly becoming a standout on the second team, Shedeur Sanders just pulled off the most impressive quarterback comeback since Tom Brady made the world believe he wasn't finished at 40.
What is it going to take for you to just buy in to Shedeur Sanders when players all around him are telling you how different he looks, how good he looked, how he just has that aura to him? Because it seems like all the players that are around Shedeur Sanders have nothing but great things to say about him and love him. Because again, he clearly just looks different than the rest of the competition that we've seen. And like I said, the last time I've seen guys go for or say things about a certain player like that, it was Baker Mayfield. So could 12 be that guy? How long until we see 12? Because I feel like it's just a matter of...
The same haters who were cheering when he got dropped to fourth string are now scrambling for excuses faster than a glitchy Wi-Fi during the Super Bowl. Get ready, because this isn't just a step up on the depth chart. It's a serious reality check that's got the critics choking on their own words with a big helping of humble pie.
Being said, I see some balls coming out of Shedeur Sanders at that game, and I'm like, kind of looks like a guy.
Yeah, I'm ready.
He can sling it.
I see him, some of the veterans, how they talk to him, mic'd up, see what he's doing in the community.
Yep. Talk about Njoku there.
Njoku, Mike Napier. Once you see, different little interactions and things like that, I know he has the talent. We'll see. It'll be a competition that usually brings the best out of guys, especially young guys. So I'm interested to see how that quarterback situation.
I've heard he's been outstanding.
The Cleveland Browns training camp just turned into the most talked about event in town. All thanks to Shedeur Sanders, who took his spot as fourth string and used it as motivation for one of the most impressive rises the NFL has seen in years. While everyone was busy counting him out and calling his career dead, Sanders was quietly putting together a performance so good that coaches are saying they haven't witnessed anything like it in the last 15 years.
Drafted in the 5th round, all that means nothing when it's time to play football and that whistle blows. He looks different than the rest of the competition. That's what I heard. And I'm talking from a not Brother Ward, I'm just talking about from sources that's in that room, that's on that field, that's playing the sport. Man, come on, man.
Yep, coaches with decades of experience are honestly scratching their heads, trying to figure out how someone goes from being a practice squad afterthought to seriously competing for a starting spot in just a few weeks.
Thing is, they never planned on taking him. The problem is, like Ocho Cinco said, you got somebody that has endeared himself to the locker room. And guess what? The difference between him and Tim Tebow, the biggest one, is he can play. He can throw the ball. Tim Tebow running around being an H-back. He can throw the ball. And he's done everything he needs to do. He ain't saying nothing. He ain't rocking the boat. He ain't mad about the reps. He ain't mad about none of that. All the people out there want to see is this, like Tyler said earlier. We want to see what he can do with Jerry Jeudy.
That's it.
I want to see what he can do with David Njoku. I want to see him with Junkins. I want to see him with the first running backs. If you are cooking, if you are beating down the doors with the 3s and 4s, guess what? You deserve more. That was a bar. It rhymed. It was.
Remember when Mary Kay Cabot dropped that bombshell report saying Shedeur Sanders was the 4th string quarterback? The internet blew up faster than a Michael Bay explosion. Critics came out of nowhere, like ants at a picnic, rushing to call his NFL dreams dead on arrival. They claimed he was only shining against guys who'd either end up on practice squads or be out of the league by September. They pointed out he wasn't getting reps in 11-on-11 drills and said he needed to earn his way up the depth chart.
Dude, listen, the guy, all I can say is that he goes where the ball's supposed to go and it looks the way it's supposed to look. Mm-hmm. And when I hear that tells me it sounds like the Browns may have got a steal with Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round because I think he'll have a chance. I'm not saying he's going to be the starting quarterback in September, like week 1 or 2 or whatever it may be early in the year, but I think he's got a chance to develop into something that hopefully would preclude them from having to draft a quarterback first overall or top 5 next year.
Being said, I see some balls coming out of Shedeur Sanders at that game, and I'm like, kind of looks like a guy.
Yeah, I'm ready.
He can sling it.
I see him, some of the veterans, how they talk to him, mic'd up, see what he's doing in the community.
Yep. Talk about Njoku there.
Njoku, Mike Napier. Once you see, different little interactions and things like that, I know he has the talent. We'll see. It'll be a competition that usually brings the best out of guys, especially young guys. So I'm interested to see how that quarterback situation.
I've heard he's been outstanding.
Funny how the tables have turned. Those same critics are now watching Sanders climb the depth chart like he's scaling Mount Everest with rocket boosters. The guy they wrote off is now the one they can't stop paying attention to. Every completion sends a message. Every perfect throw is a reminder that real talent doesn't stay hidden forever. And with every practice, he's showing that maybe, just maybe, the Browns stumbled upon their hidden gem.
One thing for the fans to sit here and hype up Shedeur Sanders because we all know how we get about certain players that we like. But it's another thing when you hear it from players who are actually on the field, who are actually in the locker room, who are actually next to this guy every single day. Because I'm sure we've all seen the quote by now by Chad Johnson when they were on the nightcap, and he talked to some young bulls. He talked to Denzel Ward. He didn't want to give away his name, but he already did it. And he said that Denzel Ward says he looks different from the rest of the competition. We've already been seeing.
When word got out that Shedeur Sanders officially moved up to second-team reps, passing Dillon Gabriel along the way, the shockwaves hit from Cleveland all the way to Canton. This wasn't just some small roster tweak, this was huge. One day he's throwing passes to practice squad guys, and the next he's running with the second team, putting real pressure on the starting quarterback spot. The promotion came after Sanders completely dominated minicamp, showing toughness, leadership, and total control on the field. His passes were right on target, hitting receivers in stride. His decision-making was sharp as a blade, and his grasp of the playbook had coaches nodding like proud parents at a school play. But this wasn't beginner's luck. It was steady, calculated execution that the coaching staff just couldn't ignore.
And I don't know, there was never no one thought he was this like malcontent or like a bag. It wasn't.
That was the word,
That was kind of what was being said. That was kind of what was being said.
No. The pre-draft process was so unorthodox that he didn't go through it all like everyone else did. And I think there's a lot that we can look back on this thing, especially if he becomes a star in this league and say, you could point fingers in a million ways. Not having a pure agent, not having, the workouts that everyone else did, going to these teams, not necessarily being as willing to throw the ball when asked at these the All-Star games, like that kind of stuff I think might have stung him, it might have turned teams off, but I know.
When Stephen A. Smith starts singing your praises, that's when you know you've officially arrived. The ESPN personality, famous for his fiery takes and no-nonsense analysis, didn't just mention Sanders. He gave him the full Stephen A. treatment. He praised Sanders not only for his top-tier football skills, but also for the intangibles that separate the good from the great. This kid's mindset puts him ahead of the pack, Stephen said, with the confidence of someone who's seen enough football to spot greatness from a mile away. He pointed out Sanders' composure, mental toughness, and relentless drive to compete at the highest level. When Stephen A. says, "It's not just about throws and stats anymore," you better believe the whole football world is paying attention.
This stuff wasn't made up. I covered the draft for ESPN. I'm sitting on the desk. It's Shefty, it's Mel, it's me, it's Lewis. I heard some of the same things that Deion Sanders is talking about. And S.A. and Kenton, you know this, we all have relationships. We all have people who tell us information, they help us prepare to do our job. I heard some of the same things. Some of these things weren't necessarily made up, at least I don't think, from the people that I trust who told me these things. And so